All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to webinar number 2 for Google Workspace for Education. In today's session, we're going to go over a little bit more advanced tips and tricks and techniques, things like that, to hopefully bring your Google Classroom to life a little bit. So for today's agenda, I know a lot of you were probably here yesterday, but in case we have any new folks, I'm very quickly just going to explain what the project is and how you can get access to Google Workspace. And then we're going to go right into some of these newer, more advanced features and show them how you can use them in a teaching and learning setting. If you do have questions, please type them in the chat, and Kim, feel free to slow me down, or some of them I can definitely take at the very end. So the first thing I want to go over, again, this might be repetitive, but what is a Google Workspace project? Basically, Education Commons and OISE have set up Google Classroom and Google Workspace for all students in the MT program. So basically, you have access to a Google account that's associated through OISE. And as you can see, the domain is at oise.utoronto.ca, which is slightly different from your personal email address or your school email address. And the reason why we brought this technology in is because it aligns with a lot of the school boards in Ontario and across Canada. A lot of them are using Google Workspace as a way to kind of teach online, especially what we've been going through the last couple of years. So this is a really good avenue. It's going to give you continued access to the service because we realized there was a bit of a challenge when you leave the school board, you no longer have access to those Google accounts. So hopefully this will be a little bit more permanent place where you can test out creating teaching and learning materials and also just build your resources up as well. If you have never logged into Google Workspace, you're just going to head over to gmail.com and you're going to use your University of Toronto email address and hit sign in. But before you do that, you're going to make sure you switch it to the at oise.utoronto.ca. So you're likely just going to need to switch the second part of your email address. And that should prompt you for SSO, and it will ask you to sign in with your UTOR ID. So there is no specific password you need for Google except for your UTOR ID credentials. Now, if you are unable to log in, just submit a ticket to Education Commons and we can create you an account. Some students may have fallen through the cracks, and we can definitely make you an account super quick. And if you do access the Google Classroom feature, which I'll get into today, please make sure you choose that you are a teacher and not a student, and that will just give you access so you can create your own classes. We have the Google Workspace for Education Fundamentals Edition, which is the free version. So you get access to all of these great tools you can see kind of above me right here. There are some limitations with using the free version. I know TDSB is also using the free version, so you might have already had some of these challenges. But a few things that you won't have access to are the use of creating polls and Q&A during your Google Meet virtual meetings, unlimited originality reports. In our version, you get access to 5 originality reports, some of the Google Classroom add-ons, and you can't run live streams. But if you've been at TDSB or other school boards, it's likely you didn't have these features anyways. So I just wanted to touch on that in case you're looking for stuff and you can't find it. So today we're going to dive a little deeper into some of the tools that we didn't cover yesterday. Yesterday we looked at Google Classroom and kind of the basics of setting up a class and adding students, that sort of stuff. Now we're going to go into more of the advanced tools or advanced features of some of the tools today. So we're going to kind of go over Google Forms, Jamboard, slides, and just a couple other tips and tricks. I've been using Google Classroom for over a decade now, and it's changed quite a bit. And there's a lot of really great collaboration features that are available. So that being said, I'm just going to share my screen and we are just going to kind of hop right into it. So once you get access to your Google Workspace account, so once you sign in, it will bring you to Gmail, which is essentially the landing page for Google Workspace. You have a regular Gmail account where you can send emails to people. You can create different chat rooms or different spaces. So it's a really great feature if you want to test out for doing spaces. If let's say you have a math class, you can add a bunch of students to that, which is kind of cool. But in our little ecosystem here of Google Workspace, it's only staff, students, and faculty associated with the Master of Teaching program. So this is going to operate quite separately from your school board provision license. And again, it's really meant for you to practice and play around with and build resources and stuff, and definitely add some of your colleagues and classmates to your classrooms as students and as teachers to get a look and feel for how some of these tools actually work in a real-time setting. So the first thing I want to go over today was the app called Google Docs. So I'm going to drop my app launcher here, or the waffle button, I call it, and I'm going to go to Google Docs. And I think Google Docs is probably one of the most commonly used Google applications on the market, especially because it's free. If you have a Gmail account, you've likely used this before. And so when you do come to your Google Docs homepage here, you do have a bunch of templates that you can use, which is pretty handy. And you can even go into your template gallery and you can upload a template, or you can just see what is available to you, resumes, just a bunch of different cool files. So you can check those out and customize them yourself. Class notes is also a good one. But for today, let's just start a blank document. And there are two main features I want to point out. The first one is called voice typing. So this is one that's great if you're a teacher, but it's also great to share with your students. A lot of the keyboard literacy that a lot of us maybe learned 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and I know I'm kind of dating myself, but when I was in high school taking a keyboarding class, I think a lot of those skills have actually kind of diminished a little bit, especially with the use of smartphones and things. So voice typing is super cool if you're not great on a keyboard or for accessibility purposes. And you're just going to go to, actually, I'll slow this down. You're just going to click on Tools and then click on Voice Typing. It's going to bring up a little microphone here where you can click to speak. And just like that, hopefully, it will start typing everything that I say. And as you can see, it's literally typing word for word. It's definitely lacking punctuation, but you can say things like period or comma or apostrophe, and it will start hopefully putting some of these in for you. So obviously, you're not going to be able to write a perfect essay, nor will your students, because we usually don't speak in perfect sentences. But I think this is a really great tool to get a lot of words down on the paper, especially if you're running discussion boards and questions and things like that. It can be a pretty useful tool. So that is voice typing, and voice typing is also available in Google Slides as well. And the other thing I wanted to share is more of an accessibility feature. But if you are writing an essay, let's say, I could say by how's my typing today? By Ryan, and I might say introduction. And I might call this, we'll just get started like that. And so what you can do is you can actually highlight different parts of your document that you're creating. And over here, you'll see that there's a box that says normal text. And this is your stylization box. And although you'll probably go, well, Ryan, I don't want my titles to be that big. The cool thing is that it does help build out the accessibility features when you go to export this, whether it's as a PDF or if you're using it in Google Docs. So again, this can just stay as normal text. Or maybe I can center that as well. And my introduction, maybe this will be a level 1 heading. And the cool thing is you can see the summary on the sidebar here will actually start really building out, so you can easily navigate to different chapters or different headings within, let's say, an essay you're working on, which is really cool. And if you don't like the size or the font of what's available, you can actually, again, hover over title, and I can even decrease the font size because maybe I want to keep it all similarly sized. I can even give it a color if I want, and I can click on title, and I can click update to match. So now, anytime I want to have another title in my paper, so let's say we can call this essay 2. Maybe I'm writing them both on the same document. If I go up here and click title, you can see it's the exact same, and it starts building out on the left-hand column. So again, this is a really neat feature. I highly recommend using and customizing. It's really great for accessibility purposes. The next app I want to go over, and I'll just close this document here, is called Google Sheets. And I think many of us have used or painstakingly used Microsoft Excel before, or even Google Sheets, but it is in fact a spreadsheet. It's a very powerful tool, great if you are teaching any math courses and things like that. But there are two little things I want to show with Google Sheets. And so normally we can put height and time. And maybe you'll have a bunch of different values in here or whatever. And that's typically how we use Google Sheets. But there's a really cool feature where you can actually go up and you can insert. And if you scroll all the way down, you can go to drawing. And I like this feature because sometimes these spreadsheets are too limited in kind of what you can do with them. So if you go up here and you grab, let's say, a line tool or even a scribble tool, you can draw, let's say, a happy face. You could draw some arrows or something like that. Any sort of cool things you want to add to your spreadsheet, you can add them in directly. And the nice thing is they don't affect your cells. So sometimes when you type in cells, it can be kind of annoying because sometimes cells get overlapped if there's not enough room, and then you got to start adjusting. This is really cool because you can actually add other content and instructions if you're giving feedback to a student, or if you are giving them a worksheet to work on, you can customize that yourself. You can also, again, if you are doing this as an assignment for students, you can actually insert an image. So if I go to insert image over the cells, I'm actually just going to do a quick upload here, because what I've done, see how this will load, is I just pulled the quadratic equation. And again, it's another cool thing where it's just going to be floating over top of the cells. You can actually customize where it's going to fit on the page. And that way, again, you'll have your formula available, but it's not interfering with the work you're doing in the spreadsheet. So that's kind of my two big tips for using Sheets. Now, and again, these programs have a lot to unpack if you are going to explore them further. But now let's head over to Slides. So Slides is a very popular one, especially for classroom teaching. Again, similar to Google Docs, there's a bunch of different templates there that are available. But for today, maybe we'll go to this one here, General Presentation. So I recommend checking out some of the templates because they're actually pretty good and super customizable. They're accessible for the most part, and I just recommend using them. But a cool feature you can do is you can actually go up to File and go to Page Setup. So now in the Page Setup, you can actually choose how big of a page you want to use. And a lot of times when we do these, we're asking a student to maybe make a slideshow, make a presentation on a topic. But that just means you're always going to be receiving the content back as a slideshow, a PDF of these sideways kind of rectangles. And so if you go to custom here, you can actually go to, let's see if I go 8.5 by 11. And just like that, I've kind of changed the layout for my Google slide. And so this makes it really cool if students are making maybe just more of a interactive thing or a comic book or something. It just gives them a bit more variety in how their document is formatted, which is pretty handy. So that's one of the things I like to show. And another one is inserting images. So again, similar to how I just mentioned in Google Sheets, how you can insert images. The nice thing about Google Slides is that they recognize just how many pictures go into one of these presentations. And so instead of saving all these pictures to your desktop, which we've become so accustomed to doing, you can actually search the web. And when I click that, it's going to open up a little mini browser on the right-hand side here. I could type in something like maybe car, and it's going to give me a bunch of car pictures of cars that I can use and drag and drop and put directly into my presentation. And just like that, I've got a picture of a car in my presentation, and I didn't have to save anything to my computer, which is really nice. And this is a great feature if you are teaching students who are working on Chromebooks, because obviously Chromebooks, they're just a little bit more challenging, not really having a great operating system like Windows or Mac OS. After this, we're going to head over to the Google Classroom now. And I know I'm just kind of going rapid fire here, so I can definitely slow down a little. But if we go down to the Google Classroom, and yesterday I set up a couple different classrooms and things like that. And let's head over to the outer space class. Now, inside the class, I covered a few things, how to organize your stream properly, how to put different topics in for your course content. And here you can see an example. I've actually just separated this into different units, which is a common way teachers organize their course material. But if you want to give your students a quiz, and quiz is something that we didn't actually go over, I'm just going to go to create and add a quiz. And so now I can call this quiz whatever I want. Maybe I'll call this the outer, no, maybe I'll call it like the moon quiz or something, moon quiz. You can give all the instructions you want here. And again, this is probably something you're going to copy and paste from all your quizzes, answer all questions, etc. But down below, it actually generates a blank Google form for me that I can start customizing. So once I click on the blank quiz here, now I have a Google form, which is great. And I can actually use it to add a bunch of questions and basically add a mark value to every question as well too. So up in the top right-hand corner here, I can customize the theme. I can go to a preview so I can see kind of how the students will view the course. I can call this the moon quiz. And again, I can add a little description here, whatever I want. I can even rename this if I want. Moon quiz. And you can start adding questions to your quizzes. And the nice thing is it doesn't actually have to be a graded quiz either. Sometimes you can just give students a quiz so they can check their understanding and that sort of stuff. So I might say like, how big is the moon? And you can choose which type of question you want this to be: short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, check boxes. Really, there's a whole bunch of different options here as well. So again, feel free to, I can put big, I can put small, and I can do an answer key. So I can, if I'm doing a multiple choice, I can actually choose what the correct answer is and make it worth 1 mark. And so just like that, I've created a quiz. It's 1 question and it's worth 1 mark. And it's going to be automatically graded because I've actually created an answer key to go with this as well. And I can also make sure that every question is required to be answered. A lot of times students miss questions, even in online tests. And so I think having a required feature is great, especially for multiple choice. And you'll start getting your responses in real time once the quiz has been published to the class. Students can go ahead and start answering and all that sort of stuff. There's a bunch of different settings within the quiz feature. So you can, especially if you want, you can release the marks immediately, or you can release them later. Releasing them later, the only real benefit to that is it ensures students get their quizzes all back at the same time. And if you do immediately, there might be a bit of a gap between when Sally gets their quiz back and when Bobby gets their quiz back. And so again, I definitely recommend checking out the different features and settings for forms, as well as all the Google tools, to be honest, because there's quite a bit of customization and it's not too scary, but And so up here, if I click the send button, I can email this quiz directly to students, by typing in everyone's email. I can leave a little message, hey, everyone, do the quiz. I can link it, which is, or I can use a short URL. I can link that if I have a class website, or I can even embed it somewhere. So if you are someone who uses HTML coding a little bit, maybe your school board uses Blackboard or Canvas or Moodle, you can actually embed the quiz directly into the website as well. But if I go up here, I'm just going to click assign in the top right corner, and that's going to let me assign this quiz, and it's going to appear in my class for my students. I wouldn't usually use a plagiarism checker unless maybe you're having students, I don't know, write essays or things like that. But yeah, and you can also add a rubric to your quiz as well. And maybe that rubric will be applied to a long answer question near the end of the quiz. Oh, no mark category selected. So same thing, I can easily go up here and I can put that it is part of the quiz category. It's actually unmarked and I can assign it. And just like that, students will now be notified right away. Hey, there's a quiz available. This is when it was posted and it is available for you to do. You can absolutely schedule when your quizzes appear, and you can set kind of time frames on those as well for when students complete them. So that is kind of how quizzes works in a nutshell. You can see it just uses Google Forms in the back end. So you can actually very easily, if I head back to my Gmail here, you can easily hit the drop down here, go to Forms, and you can start creating your own quizzes or emailing or sharing quizzes with your peers, especially if you guys are teaching similar courses. And that way you'll have just a nice library of different quizzes you've created that you can easily pull into classrooms down the road. So if you are on practicum somewhere and your AT gives you a bunch of resources like quizzes for a solar system unit, as long as it's okay with them, ask if you can just download those and keep them for yourself personally in your OISE account or in your personal Gmail account. And that's kind of the whole goal behind this, is really to make sure that you have a space where you can test out all these features, but also build a bit of a repository of resources. The next thing I wanted to show was called Google Sites. And I touched on this very briefly in the first webinar, but Google Sites is kind of what it sounds like. It is a Google website that you can create, and you can use this to support your classroom. So really, Google Classroom and Google Sites, I don't really see them standing alone a whole lot. Usually if you have a Google Classroom set up, you either have another learning management system, so something like I mentioned, Blackboard, Brightspace, Moodle, whatever, or a class website that lives somewhere. And so that's kind of where I think why they've kind of paired these two together, is Google Sites serves as another place where you can start adding course content. And again, you can see there are some nice templates available, so definitely check those out. They save a lot of headaches, especially if you're customizing a course website. And so here I made a course website for my outer space course. And again, there's not much in it yet, but you can see it's actually linked out and created a bunch of different pages for my units. I can add newsletters. I have a schedule page. You can upload images, and even on the right-hand side here, you can see you can set up how your pages are organized, add an image carousel, table of contents, and here is that embed code as well. So you can actually embed something like your quizzes or your forms directly into your website, so students see them right on the homepage, which is pretty cool too. But yeah, you have a whole variety. You can add anything you've created within the Google ecosystem to your website. And it just serves as a nice place where all of your content can live. You can, in the top right-hand corner, you have ability to publish your website too. And that way you can send the link out to your students. You can paste the link in your Google Classroom, and students will always know where more of the static type stuff in your course is going to live. So definitely the sites is meant for keeping resources. Maybe you have a bunch of PDFs or PowerPoint slides or videos that you want to use year after year. This is likely where that's going to stay. You can absolutely add collaborators to your website too. So if you wanted, again, I always mention this, but any of your peers, you can add them in and they can help customize. And you can also view what your website looks like on your computer, but as well as mobile. And more and more every year, students are using mobile for learning. And so that's pretty important too. And when you choose some of these Google templates, they are optimized for mobile as well. So they look really nice if you have a smartphone. And again, you can always customize the settings further. You can see analytics, all that sort of stuff, find out if students are actually visiting your site. And if I go back to my classroom here, I think, yeah, right here in my online sessions and class websites little section, I've added a course website and I've added a link for my online classes. This is a little bit old, it's from March, but I've posted a link there for Google Meet, so students can always know where to go if they want to log in for an online meeting. And speaking of online meetings, you can schedule using your Meet button right here or using your Google Calendar, you can schedule times where you're going to meet with students virtually. Maybe it's a drop-in or an office hours type situation. And you can meet with students and go over any of the course materials that way too. But a really cool feature, and it's quite a big improvement with Google, is that if I go back to two of the apps I was sharing earlier, let's go to Google Docs. And let's say you're working on an essay here. And you want to know, little Timmy, how the essay is going so far. The cool thing about this is that you can actually run a call directly from your Google Doc or your Google Slides. And so if I click the drop down here, my computer's going a little bit slow, but I can actually start a new meeting right now. So when I press start a new meeting, on the right-hand side, hopefully it's going to open up. There we go. So on the right-hand side, you can see it's opening up a meeting window, which is super handy. Got my mic, my video camera as well. And I can also start presenting, and I can present exactly what I'm working on. So it really helps bring these types of office hour type meetings or feedback meetings with students to the next level, because now the teacher can see in real time what the issue is. The student doesn't have to email the teacher a PDF and the teacher emails the PDF back with feedback. It's all happening in real time. And this is also available, as I mentioned, in, I think, just about all of the apps, which is super handy, because if you want to meet with a group who's working on a Google Slides presentation, you can do that all in one spot as well. So that is a really nice feature, something that Google does that Microsoft isn't quite doing yet with Teams and stuff, working on documents. So Google's really stepped up with the collaboration features. Let's head back to the, I'm going to end that meeting. Let's head back to the Gmail here. And once I hit my waffle button again, I'm going to go over to my Google Drive. And this is kind of another neat feature that I wasn't really aware of, or at least didn't know how beneficial it could be until Kim mentioned it to me. But in your Google Drive here, this is where all of the files you create eventually live. So if you add a quiz to your course, it's going to add that Google Forms file directly to your Drive. But if you have some different types of PDFs that you've uploaded to your OneDrive, you can also share those with classmates or peers, and you guys can comment on those together. So let's just say there was a chapter out of a textbook or a news article or something that was saved as a PDF. You can actually drag and drop your PDF file directly into your Google Drive, and you can share it with different people and have them comment on it. So here I've pulled up, I think this might just be some random document here. But what I've done is I'll just close this for a second. All I did was I just right-clicked on the document and I clicked share. And by sharing, I can choose who I want to share with. So if there's a group of students, or maybe just me and a colleague are working on something, I can add people and give them any level of permissions I want. I like the commenter feature because it allows that person to comment on the PDF without changing anything, though it's tricky to change things in a PDF anyways. But here you can see the comments that have been posted and you can resolve them. And you can work through things like that as well. So again, this is if you want to share PDFs, things that are already made, like a chapter of a book or something. If you are collaborating on writing an essay, you can actually just do that directly in Google Docs, which is kind of cool. So if I go up to my Google Docs, same sort of thing. Every single Google tool has a share button in the top right-hand corner where you can very easily share with other users. And as it slowly loads here, I can easily turn on comments and comment history. So if there's a group of people working on it, you can see what everyone is saying and see if any of the issues get resolved. So it really helps bring that collaborative nature to Google Docs. And once you pair that with the Google Meet, it works really, really nicely. I think that was kind of some of the things I wanted to go over today. I think, actually maybe one more. Was Jamboard. That's right, Jamboard. So Jamboard, I'm sure some of you have heard of this or tried it out before, but Jamboard is available in your Google Apps. And if you click on it, just like that, you can see all the Jamboards you've created. The one thing that's not the best about Jamboard is there's no way to organize them. They just kind of plop in here like they're called recent jams. So you can't really put them into folders within the Jamboard interface. But in your Google Drive, you can absolutely create folders and start dragging and dropping. I call this my Jamboards from May 2022. I can create folders, and then anywhere that I see a Jamboard down here, I can easily drag and drop them into my folder. But anyways, let's get back to Jamboards here. So Jamboards is pretty cool. I'll go to Jamboards 3.0. And in here, you can start adding as many slides as you want. And you can do a little bit of, it's more for quick or smaller type activities. You're not necessarily going to type essays on Jamboards. But if I go up here, I can add images. Again, I can go right from URL if I know the images, or I can go to Google Images. Again, let's pull up a car or something again. Cardi B. Car, let's try that again. There we go. I guess it doesn't really matter what the image is, but I think if you're teaching students, you might want to do stuff relative or closely connected to what you're teaching. So we're doing a car unit or vehicle unit. And so there you go. You can start adding different types of vehicles in. you have the ability to also, do different drawings and things like that. So you can set up the Jamboard however you want. As the teacher, you may want to consider putting a kind of a background image on your Jamboard. And so here's one that I did a while ago. I basically drew this little kind of map thing. I think I made it in Google Slides, saved as a picture, and then uploaded it into my Jamboard. And so now I've just kind of put a couple headings in here, and now students can start adding stickies in if they want, or start filling in the content. And the way this works with Google Classroom is if I head over to Google Classroom, I can create a new assignment like so. I can call this Best Planets Jamboard. Again, all the instructions you want. But instead of uploading a file or linking a file, I'm just going to go directly to my Google Drive. And I'm going to kind of look around, see if I can find my Jamboard. There it is. And just like that, I've added my Jamboard to the assignments. And so depending on how you're teaching this assignment or how you want to go, you can set it to students can just view the file, or students can edit the file, or students can make a copy, or there's a copy made for each student. If you are going to let students edit the file directly, I highly recommend that you do have a backup copy of kind of saved somewhere more permanently in a folder you're not sharing with students. Otherwise, you may just lose your best copy of it. So again, something to consider when you are using Jamboard. And so once you create this, I can even do, let's say edit. Maybe this is just a Jamboard that I'm willing to give out to the students and let them play with. I can assign it, and every student's going to know that they can start edit. Oh, I got to do a category again. Every student's going to know that they can start playing around the Jamboard and adding their stickies in and things like that. And slowly but surely, you'll start to see that it is shared, and you'll start to notice that there are different students putting things on it. So Jamboards are also really good to do in real time. If you're running a giant Google Meet and you're sharing your screen, you can share the link with students directly in the chat, and they can do it in real time. Again, helps bring up that engagement a little bit with teaching online. And so that kind of concludes some of the tools I want to go over today and some of the features. I'm not sure if I've missed much or that, but I'm just going to check the comments here. I don't know if Kim, if there's anything else I should go over. I'm gonna grab a drink.
Not yet. I've answered them in the chat, but we can take a little pause and see if there's any new questions.
Sure. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Another thing I want to share that I mentioned in the first webinar is that you do have access to YouTube. So if I go to, let's go see if I go to YouTube here with your new, anyone can have access to YouTube. If you are if you have any email account, you can create your own YouTube channel. But the cool thing is that you will have your own account, and you can start creating and uploading videos. So if you had videos you've recorded of you doing a lesson, or even like this, how we're doing a webinar that's recorded, if you want to upload it somewhere and maybe your school doesn't have a place for you to upload it, you can absolutely use YouTube. And it's not as scary as it sounds. It doesn't have to go out to the entire world. So if I go to my little R here, I think if I go to my channel, let's see. Yeah, so here you can see, I think I have one video here from a while ago, but you can see all of the videos you've uploaded, and you can easily upload videos here just by pressing the create button. So if I press the create button here and I click upload a video, I wonder if I have a little sample video I could actually upload. The neat thing is that there's a bunch of different things you can do when you upload your video. So I'm not going to upload a video right now, but I'll just go to one of these videos down here from a while ago. And so this is a video I uploaded, I think in the fall, and you can see I have my nice video here. I even added a cool little thumbnail. So I did a little screen grab, but this video is set to unlisted. And if you are, let's say you're doing a lesson on volcanoes and you want to share it with your students, a lot of times people say, don't use YouTube. You don't want, don't want your face out there, and that'll live there forever online. If it's just you teaching and you want to share videos with your students, I recommend just uploading an unlisted video. Unlisted videos are great because any content you put up as an unlisted video only people with the link can view that video. So that means it's not searchable on YouTube. So if you type in, Ryan Lottie talking about volcanoes, you're likely not going to find any video. But if you have an unlisted, you can actually use this link right here and post that in your course. You can email to students. If it's for educational purposes, you probably don't really care where it shows up, but it's just definitely not going to show up in the global search on YouTube or in Google or anywhere else. So that is a nice feature, and you can always turn this on and off, and you can always change kind of the privacy level for private, unlisted, or public. Public just means it's actually going to show up in YouTube if you do a search for it. But unlisted is a great way to go. YouTube's great too because it is highly accessible. I mean, Google's definitely a leader in accessibility, so you're going to get live captions for it. You're going to be able to change the rate in which it plays and that sort of stuff too, and even different languages. So I highly recommend, if you are just getting started teaching, you can start building out your online virtual lessons in YouTube as unlisted videos.